Greetings, Mavericks and new viewers. Tonight, direct and live from the Maverick News Network World Studios. This is Maverick News with Rick Walker.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Maverick News Channel. What a day. Big loss for Trump, but he don't care. He's going to do what he wants to do. That much is pretty clear. And I don't know who's going to stop him. Who can stop the president of the United States from doing whatever he wants to do? His tariffs ruled illegal by the Supreme Court, 6-3 decision today. So he has responded by imposing a 10% tariff on everyone, declaring a global 10% tariff war. Well, we'll see how that shakes down or works out. I don't think that we've ever seen anything quite like this before. We'll have reaction to all of that, and we'll also take a look at what's going on in Cuba. Maybe we'll be able to figure out a little bit more about where things stand with Iran. And I think Ian is going to join us a little later on the broadcast to talk about some things that we have both observed in recent days online about Canada's history and where Canada might be going. Oh, also, we have Maverick Midnight Matinee tonight following our regularly scheduled Maverick News broadcast. And we have a killer flick lined up for you. If you like gangster movies, you're going to want to stick around because this is, in my opinion, or will be, a movie that we can share with you that I think is probably the best gangster movie ever. So you're not going to want to miss it. All that and more coming up right here on Maverick News. We'll be right back.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
So I'm not going to start with Donald Trump tonight. I'm going to start with Rick Wilson. He was a conservative, sort of still is, but I think the Republican Party left him in the way that the conservative movement has left many conservatives homeless of late. Highly critical of Trump as the figurehead of the Lincoln Project. He's a prominent live streamer, commentator, influencer, political strategist, pretty smart guy. And today, he lost his mind because he thought Trump was going to lose his mind. I'll show you how he reacted as the news came in while he was on his podcast, and we have more to share from Rick Wilson tonight too. So let's start with this. This is how it went down this morning when the Supreme Court decision came down that said the Trump tariffs are illegal.
Holy shit! Hold on, breaking news, folks.
What?
Hang on. Well, he wasn't that excited. We'll play it in real time. One time, not 2 times speed.
SCOTUS decision: the president does not have authority on tariffs.
Woo!
Holy crap!
He's going to lose his mind.
He's going to lose his damn mind. He's going to bounce off the freaking walls.
Hold on, let's go to his truth right now.
Yeah. Get that up. Folks, this is breaking news. I love that we're doing actually like news stuff here. 6-3 decision, which means, by the by, that it was probably Alito and Thomas and maybe Kavanaugh. We don't know the details yet, but we're getting them in for you right now.
His tweets are not populating.
That is a big.
That is a huge deal. That means a lot of things. Number one, that I believe the president is required now to pay the money back. In certain cases.
He is required to pay the money back.
Yeah. Now that money, who knows where it is?
Is it $18 billion billion dollars?
Thomas, Alito, and Kavanaugh are in the dissent. This is not exactly surprising, to be honest.
No.
The Constitution is pretty clear about who has the power to raise tariffs, and that's Congress. Now, I don't know what kind of shitstorm this is going to unleash, but it's one of those things where we've been vacillating between 100% tariffs, 20% tariffs, 50% tariffs on this person. Tariffs go away, tariffs come back.
Now this is done. This is now over.
We're finished with that saga. The president's head is probably going to explode. I would be shocked if he did not have an extremely negative reaction. And you'll see Republicans start talking about packing the court. I swear to you,
they're going to flip. Oh yeah, they're going to flip. Like, they must all be fired now.
Right? They're going to say
Kavanaugh must be Chief Justice now.
Yeah, this is exactly what they're going to do. I mean that they don't have any true ideological positions. All of it is based on whether accreting power to Donald Trump. So you will see Republicans attack the Supreme Court.
But I do want to say this. I think whether Trump can accept this or not mentally, the Supreme Court just did him a huge favor.
Yeah, they did.
He now could say, "Oh well, got to follow the law for once."
Yeah,
and the courts, is a cover for him to say, "Well, I have to undo my tariffs. I loved them so much. They were so great. They were the most amazing tariffs. No one ever done tariffs like these before." But the court said no, so I have to stop. You guys, I don't know what the market's doing yet, but I promise you, it's going to go nearly fucking vertical today.
No, it didn't. Because that didn't go down quite that way. Trump's pissed. You can see that today for sure. So yeah, he did lose his mind, but not entirely. They were prepared, as I kind of expected. They have a backup plan, and the backup plan is ignore it. Just do what you want. So they're using another tool in the president's toolbox that allows them to impose tariffs on national security grounds temporarily. And in this case, he's going to proceed with a 10% tariff on everyone all around the world, all countries, 10% tariff. So that's how he is responding. Let's go to... Let's just bring it up, and we'll bring you the reaction from the president. We're going to come back to Rick Wilson because he elaborated later in the day, and his response to Trump's response is maybe a little more in depth. So let's listen to this.
The Supreme Court's ruling on tariffs is deeply disappointing, and I'm ashamed of certain members of the court, absolutely ashamed, for not having the courage to do what's right for our country. I'd like to thank and congratulate Justices Thomas, Alito, and Kavanaugh for their strength and wisdom,
for being dissenters
and love of our country, which is right now very proud of those justices. when you read the dissenting opinions, there's no way that anyone can argue against them. There's no way. Foreign countries that have been ripping us off for years are ecstatic. They're so happy. And they're dancing in the streets, but they won't be dancing for long. That I can assure you. The Democrats on the court,
Because he's going to impose
thrilled
10% tariffs on
they will
everyone.
automatically vote no. They're an automatic no, just like in Congress. They're an automatic no. They're against anything that makes America strong, healthy, and great again. They also are a, frankly, disgrace to our nation, those justices. They're an automatic no, no matter how good a case you have. It's a no. But you can't knock their loyalty. It's one thing you can do with some of our people. Others think they're being politically correct, which has happened before far too often with certain members of this court, and it's happened so often with this court. What a shame. Having to do with voting in particular, when in fact they're just being fools and lapdogs for the rhinos and the radical left Democrats, and not that this should have anything at all to do with it. They're very unpatriotic and disloyal to our Constitution. It's my opinion that the court has been swayed by foreign interests and a political movement that is far smaller than people would ever think. It's a small movement. I won by millions of votes. We won in a landslide. With all the cheating that went on, there was a lot of it, but we still won in a landslide. Too big to rig. But these people are obnoxious, ignorant, and loud. They're very loud. And I think certain justices are afraid of that. They don't want to do the right thing. They're afraid of it. This was an important case to me, more as a symbol of economic national security, and also, I would say, just for our country itself, so important, because we're doing so well as a country. We've never done so well. The good news is that there are methods, practices, statutes, and authorities, as recognized by the entire court in this terrible decision, and also as recognized by Congress, which they refer to, that are even stronger than the IEEPA tariffs available to me as President of the United States. And in actuality, I was very modest in my ask of other countries and businesses because I wanted to do, and it's very important, I wanted to be very well behaved because I wanted to do anything, I didn't want to do anything that would affect the decision of the court, because I understand the court. I understand how they're very easily swayed. I want to be a good boy. I have very effectively utilized tariffs over the past year to make America great again. Our stock market has just recently broken 50,000 on the Dow, and simultaneously, and even more amazingly, broken 7,000 on the S&P, two numbers that everybody thought upon our landslide election victory could not be attained. Think of that. Nobody thought it was possible to do it within 4 years, and we did it in 1 year. They said, you'll never be able, you'll go back and you read the geniuses, read their statements, all of the Nobel Prize winners in economics. They said, no, you couldn't do it in 4 years. Well, we didn't do it in 4 years. We did it in 1 year. We broke every record in the book, and we're continuing to do so. Tariffs have likewise been used to end 5 of the 8 wars that I settled. I settled 8 wars, whether you like it or not, including India, Pakistan, big ones, nuclear, could have been nuclear. Prime Minister of Pakistan said yesterday at the great meeting that we had, the Peace Board, he said yesterday that President Trump could have saved 35 million lives by getting us to stop fighting. They were getting ready to do some bad things. But they've given us great national security, these tariffs have. And together with our strong borders, reduced fentanyl coming into our country by 30%. When I use them as a penalty against countries illegally sending this poison into our country, to poison our youth. All of those tariffs remain. They all remain. I don't know if you know that or not. They all remain. We're still getting them, and we will after the decision. I guess there's nobody left to appeal to. But again, those three people, such respect. I've had a lot of respect for them anyway, but such great respect. But other alternatives will now be used to replace the ones that the court incorrectly rejected. We have alternatives, great alternatives. Could be more money. We'll take in more money, and we'll be a lot stronger for it. We're taking in hundreds of billions of dollars. We'll continue to do so. To show you how ridiculous the opinion is, however, the court said that I'm not allowed to charge even $1. I can't charge $1. Can't charge $1. I would have used 1 penny, but we don't make the pennies anymore. We save money. Can't charge $1 to any country under IEPA. Not $1. I assume to protect other countries. This must have been done to protect those other countries, certainly not the United States of America, which they should be interested in protecting. That's what they're supposed to be protecting. But I am allowed to cut off any and all trade or business with that same country. In other words, I can destroy the trade. I can destroy the country. I'm even allowed to impose a foreign country-destroying embargo. I can embargo. I can do anything I want, but I can't charge $1.
Whoever invented.
So, okay, let's. What a game. And that's why, today when this all went down, I was like, yeah, it's a big deal, but it's not a big deal because he's not going to roll over. He won't give up. They knew this was coming. Let's go back to Rick Wilson. This is him further responding later in the day. And we have some, I have some other stuff that's a little bit different than what you're going to be hearing from other influencers, broadcasters, media, independent and mainstream.
I have emerged from the hole, and dear God, I mean, look, when I read the Supreme Court decision this morning, I was like, oh, he's going to lose his mind. He's going to write the longest Truth Social post ever. But instead, he went on and did. I mean, Kate, you and I watched every single COVID press conference. And I think today was worse than the worst of the COVID, worse than bleach up your ass, light bulbs up your ass and bleach press conference. I think today was worse. I think this press conference was more insane because he was completely unhinged. He is clearly very angry. And his basic message to the Supreme Court of the United States of America was, go F yourself. No, I'm going to keep doing what I'm going to do on the tariffs.
Yeah. So let's get into the Supreme Court ruled this morning that Trump doing his unilateral tariffs was illegal, unconstitutional. He can't do it anymore. Within hours,
wrong.
At this governor's lunch that he had, he brought the press in, and actually before the press came in, he said these fucking courts. CNN reported, and then when the press came in, he just went off forever. I'll play one
Fidel
moment.
Castro level going on forever, like hours. It felt like.
Yeah. So let's take a look at what he had to say about the court.
Tariff is.
But there's been bipartisan criticism.
No, not bipartisan.
Of the tariffs.
Excuse me.
There's several Republicans
people
have said that.
Yeah,
But
a
why
few people.
wouldn't you just work with Congress to come up with a plan?
I don't have to.
push tariffs.
I have
through?
the right to do tariffs, and I've always had the right to do tariffs. It has all been approved by Congress. So
No, it hasn't.
Literally
Can he do
none of
that?
that is true.
That's right.
What can he do? So he now said at that presser that he's imposing by executive order 10% global tariffs. Can he do that?
No, the Supreme Court just said to him, just said the words, read the Constitution, bitch. You can't. A 6-3 decision, including such famous flaming liberals as Amy Coney Barrett and Neil Gorsuch and John Roberts. They looked at this and said, no, bro, you can't. It's in the black letter law of the Constitution. Now, does he have some narrow, like national security based things like you can't ship certain, very narrowly, maybe. But the key lie in that sentence that he said, I don't have to work with Congress because I've always had the right to do tariffs, that is a lie. That is not what the court says. That is not what the law said. That's not what the Constitution says right now. Now, the fact that Trump declared an emergency and Congress did nothing about it does not make what he did legal. It makes them incompetent bootlicking boobs. It makes them assholes for not standing up for the prerogatives both of the Constitution and of the Congress. All of this adds up to we now are on a collision course with Trump and the Supreme Court where they have said, this is the law, you may not. And he said, yeah, I may, and I'm gonna. What are you going to do about it? So this is the constitutional crisis everyone told me wasn't going to happen because Trump was much more mature in the second term. Great. I mean, it is. Look, I think we've got to be very realistic right now about the immediate future. Trump's going to continue to do these tariffs. There will be court orders up and down the chain. Eventually, those court orders will lead him to an outward defiance of the Supreme Court, which puts him in, once again, impeachment territory, and puts him in a position, I think, where even his allies in the Senate, who are the people holding his hand right now on a lot of different issues he needs to be very protected on, even those people are going to say, that ain't it, Chief, we're done, can't do it. And in the House, the damage in the House to these members of Congress who are all in these swing seats is enormous already. Trump should have recognized what the Supreme Court just gave him. They gave him a get out of jail free card. He could have said, I tried to do my best to bring back the economic blah, 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 and I did this to make America great again. The Supreme Court disagrees with me, and I disagree with them, but I'm going to follow the law, and the tariffs are gone. What would have happened? One, the markets would have gone cuckoo vertical. They would have gone crazy. They would have loved it. The global economic boom that followed would have made it much easier for Republicans to make an economic case in the fall. Right now, the economic case they have is, Donald Trump's tariffs will cost you $1,400 for the average American family. Too bad.
Right.
Yeah, that's about right. Because the extreme Trump loyalists who just can't see because they're blinded by something. They're going to have to just live with the reality that there is inflation that has been caused by these tariffs. And they are generating billions and billions and billions and billions and billions in revenue for the government, but not for the average person. It's having negative impact on job growth. It is having a severe impact on inflation. And that is translating into higher prices at the grocery store for Americans. And yes, Rick Wilson is right. We are on a collision course, or the United States is a collision course with the Supreme Court and the White House. Donald Trump about to run right smack dab into each other. I think it is a constitutional crisis. He doesn't care. And that is the approach that they are determined to take. He does have some provisions that allow him to still proceed, because the decision today really only applies to tariffs enacted under the Emergency Economic Powers Act, or IEEPA, or IEPA as they call it, which was enacted in 1977. And it doesn't restrict the decision today, the president's ability to impose tariffs under other statutes. And so as a result of that, in response, today, Trump has announced that he will impose this new 10% across the board global tariff on top of any pre-existing duties. And this is coming under, the White House is saying, Section 122 of the Trade Act of 1974, which allows the president to temporarily enact. They issued a media release about this just a short time ago, which allows the president to temporarily enact such measures for up to 150 days or 5 months to address trade imbalances or deficits without needing an emergency declaration. And so the authority is more limited in scope and more limited in duration because it doesn't need an emergency declaration, but it enables the administration to maintain similar trade pressures, I guess, while pursuing congressional approval if they want to, but I don't think he's going to because he won't get support over there. It's a mess. That's why tonight's thumbnail for the broadcast is, what is it, Trump's tariff disaster? Because it is a disaster. I know, for instance, if you're working at the border for UPS, UPS has stated today that they have received no guidance on when to stop charging the tariffs that are in place, or even, just they don't have any clear instructions. I would not want to be working at the border or dealing with anything where tariffs have to be collected or you need to fill out paperwork, because if you send a package over the border right now, or you're collecting one on the other side, or if you're in the business or if it's your job to process any of these packages, if you work at the post office, it can be a problem. I wouldn't want to deal with it because it has been chaos since all of this has started. It's 25% on that. Now tomorrow it's 20%, and the next day it's 50%. And you just don't know from day to day what the numbers are going to be. And now you have this ruling that's supposed to throw it all out, and he's saying, I don't care. Now it's 10%, and it doesn't throw out all of the tariffs, but it does throw out a good portion of them. And I don't know where it leaves Canada in all of this yet. I know the government is, I think, looking at it, and they will come up with a response, as they will have to. Every country will now have to deal with this. But what's the real impact? Who the hell knows? It's, as a result, the response today has been somewhat muted, would be, I think, the proper word, because everybody, I think, is walking on eggshells with this president. You don't want to say anything that might piss him off, and you don't want to say anything that's inaccurate, and you need to sit back, wait, and see how the dust settles, I suppose. But the other thing about all of this is, I've been saying for a long time that what Trump is doing in the White House is he is exerting extreme control over the economy. This is not a free market guy. This is not about free trade. This is the opposite of all of that. This is about a centrally planned, government-controlled economy, and the main tool being used is tariffs, which have been shown through history to have negative impacts on both sides of the trading equation when imposed. That is the case here as well. It's just that people haven't seen that to its full extent yet, but he's determined to see this thing through, obviously. But when you are in complete control of an economy, that is rigging everything. He's the guy who keeps saying, it's all rigged. The election's rigged. That's rigged. The market's rigged. Everything's rigged. Yeah, he is absolutely the master rigger. That's what he is. And if he's not careful, he's going to send the United States economy into a state of rigor mortis, because it undermines confidence in the markets, even in the US dollar, because who can trust any investment when you know that it's rigged? You don't know if it will go up or down. You're at the mercy of someone pulling an economic lever. You might win, you might lose, But if you don't know which way he's going to pull that lever, you have no real way to assess whether what you're about to invest in is going to be a good investment. You're at the mercy of someone who is going to push or pull and artificially control market conditions. And when you're doing that, you can also rig it in your own favor. If you're the one doing the rigging, you know when the market's going to go down or when the market's going to go up. And if you're around the guy who's rigging it, he might just whisper in your ear and say, hey, tomorrow I'm going to push this lever forward. And that will send the market crashing. And when I pull it back, it's going to go back up like a rocket ship. And if you know when to buy and when to sell, you can make a whole lot of coin, even billions of dollars. And if you help write these rules to rig the system, and you can do it in a way that you get away with it even through law, then you're away to the races and you have a completely unfair advantage over everyone. But some people are taking notes. I've been talking about this for quite a while. It's actually pretty gross. And the corruption in the White House is rampant. But Trump isn't the only one who's cashing in. There are, well, I'll say these are allegations tonight aimed at Howard Lutnick and his family. Accusations coming straight from the one, the only Alex Jones, which surprises me, frankly. But Lutnick may be falling out of favor because of the Epstein files revelations and his relationship, which is, to say the least, very embarrassing for Mr. Lutnick. These allegations are that he just made billions by betting against Trump's tariffs that were written, well, at least that his family made billions by betting against Trump's tariffs. And these are rules that were written by Howard Lutnick himself. What are you talking about, Rick? Well, I'll show you. See, because they're on Wall Street, they've been taking basically bets on what the impact of the Supreme Court ruling would be. Will it go up? Will it go down? Which way will the Supreme Court rule? Well, now we have the ruling, and now the bets are being called in. Here, let me bring it up. Here's what Alex Jones had to say about it today. Pretty serious accusations. These have not been proven in a court of law. But follow the paper trail, follow the money, baby.
There's a New York Times article. Wall Street bet against the Trump tariffs. You mean Lutnick and Bessent's sons and all of them did? Oh, they're all in on it. The sons are all being used as the bagmen. He and his family made gigantic bets that this would get reversed because it does destroy the heart of the globalist takeover and ends our economic surrender. And Lutnick was always a Democrat and always for those bad policies before. But suddenly he's all for it, and him and his buddies have made tens of billions now, it's estimated. Well, let me see. You got to pay back $175 billion at least. You got to pay it back with a whole bunch of penalty and interest. And then these are the guys that bought all that up from people that wanted to sell their insurance in it. So now the Lutnicks and others go and they collect on it. And you're the one that set the policy because you knew the Supreme Court insiders were going to deep six it. You knew what would stand, what wouldn't. Insiders and experts predicted all this on my show. And you did it, Lutnick. Yeah, that's criminal, in my view.
Yeah. Nice work if you can get it, right? Writing the rules for United States trade policies and setting economic policies. And when you do that, man, you know what's coming, you know what's going, you know what's going up, you know what's going down, and you know when it's going to do it. And you got that information. I mean, you talk about insider trading. Holy Toledo.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
Brightleaf Innovations is excited to offer our newest investment opportunity, the Turn Easy Bed Storage Solution.
Turns with a touch, spins all the way around. Every little thing you need is easy to be found. No more clutter, no more mess on the floor. Just spin it, reach it, you don't search anymore. Turn Easy Bed, spin your world around. Storage made simple, the best you found. Shelves your way, keep the mess away. Charge it, store it, night or day. Custom shelves for your books or your tech. Cozy space for your treasures to protect. Built-in power when you need to recharge. Smart design that makes your bedroom feel large. Turn Easy Bed, spin your world around. Storage made simple, the best you found. Shelves your way, keep the mess away. Charge it, store it, night or day. Designed and developed by Brightleaf Innovations. Proudly Canadian and patent pending in North America. Turn Easy Bed transforms how you live.
To learn more about this innovative new product idea and exciting investment opportunity, call 519-784-0222 or visit brightleafinnovations.com.
I guess I could go on and on and on about the tariff thing because it is such a big deal, especially for Canada. But I think, honestly, this is more status quo than you're probably going to hear elsewhere. And I think what we just heard from Alex Jones, as much as it pains me to tell you, is that's probably closer to the truth than just about anything else you're likely to hear from anybody. I'll tell you this, I am tired of the influencers who keep saying it's all Canada's fault. It's Canada's own fault. It's Canada's fault. Canada's fault. That's why we got the tariffs. It's Canada's fault. No, it's not. It's not Canada's fault at all. It's not Canada's fault any more than it's any other nation's fault that has been targeted by Trump, which is every country in the world now. He's literally thrown the ultimate tariff temper tantrum by imposing a global 10% tariff on everyone. Okay, go ahead. It's like a tax on your own people. That's what it is. All the billions of dollars he has collected in taxes or in tariffs, it is a tax on the American people. It hurts the country that's sending the goods to the United States because it makes the goods, in some cases, unaffordable, or raises the price so they sell less of it to the United States. And for the consumer, it raises prices. And that's just the way it works. And so, yeah, it's raising a lot of revenue for the government. It's not helping the people. And then because he's raising the revenue through a form of tariff, which is a form of taxation, it gives him additional control over the economy, deciding who wins, who loses, where the money goes. This guy might win because he'll take that revenue and redistribute it. It's pure socialism. It's pure protectionism. It is pure. Well, I would call this economic fascism, but you might even characterize it as economic policies that mirror or echo or resemble a form of communism. And this is a guy who rails against communism. And even tonight, we see this blockade against Cuba that is continuing, while he's saying, and Marco Rubio both saying, that Cuba is a failed nation. and they need to make a deal with the United States. And it is turning into a humanitarian crisis in Cuba tonight, because they have garbage accumulating in communities. They don't have gasoline to power garbage trucks. They have rolling blackouts, in some cases extending now, I think, as long as 20 hours at times, because they just are running out of energy, because they were getting their oil from Venezuela. That has been cut off. There is a Russian oil tanker making its way to Cuba tonight. They're going to try to test the U.S. blockade. That is something that I think should concern us all, because that is a pinch point in diplomacy, geopolitics. That could spark a broader conflict. Very dangerous stuff. Who knows, man? It might. The thing about this situation in Cuba tonight is that, again, it's a muted response from the media. I am not seeing very much coverage of what is going on in Cuba, and yet that country is under intense pressure. Donald Trump has his boot on the neck of Cuba, because their society, there's all their systems are breaking down now, because they've been cut off from the world. Canada is being called upon to send aid, as are some other countries, send aid to the people of Cuba tonight. But I don't think you're going to see many, if any, countries step up and come to the aid of Cuba at this time, because Trump has made it clear any countries that do that will face even heavier tariffs. That's what's going on in Cuba. I don't know where it will all go. I do know that somebody was saying that there was somebody encouraging people to go to Cuba. That was about a week or two ago. And I said, no, bad idea, because there are travel advisories in place telling people to not go to Cuba. The Canadian government advising people to avoid travel to Cuba because of the energy shortage there. Like, they don't have any oil coming in. They don't have anything to power anything. Electricity is in short supply. Everything's in short supply. They don't have jet fuel. So as planes arrive, they can't leave. There's no jet fuel for them to take off. And I believe the last Canadian jet now has left, bringing remaining Canadians who wanted to leave home. I think that was completed today. And, I'm kind of wondering, can you still book a flight to Cuba? Probably you can. I wonder if they're still advertising. I bet you they are. Cuban vacations. Let's take a little look online. I don't advise that you go. It would be dangerous, especially after we've seen what happened in Venezuela. And it's not going to be a great trip, because the resorts won't have power, and there's garbage accumulating in the streets. It's turning into a bit of a health crisis too. Yeah, Sunwing Cuba, all-inclusive vacations, Transat, yet still advertising. I don't know what would happen if Canadians are learning the hard way to not vacation in Cuba's all-inclusives. That was 3 months ago. I don't know what that story is about. Air Canada Vacations. We've got Cuba vacation packages for all tastes. What happens when I click on it? Well, they're still advertising from $1,400. I bet you could get it. I don't know. There's got to be some. I bet you there's some really cheap vacations to Cuba right now. I wish things were running a little bit more smoothly for the people who live there. But Donald Trump, Marco Rubio, they are very focused on regime change in Cuba. Make no mistake. And I have noticed that the coverage is very spotty it's almost, I wouldn't say it's a media blackout, but it's media muted. I don't think that's an accident either. They don't really want to draw too much attention to what is going on down there right now, but news is getting out. I have seen some live streams from people, Canadians, in the last few days, saying that they think big changes are a coming in Cuba. So what else do we have going on tonight? I notice Ian is in the back room. We're going to go to him in just a moment. Oh yeah, well, here, look, I found this. Just to illustrate my point about the crisis in Cuba. And Canada's role in this. Canada faces challenges. It navigates growing calls to help Cuba amid U.S. aggression. Cuban crisis will put Carney's Davos speech to the test, says one expert. Canadian government is in a bind as it faces growing calls to help Cuba. The U.S. government attempts to choke off the island's and nation's fuel supplies. Yeah.
Is Donald Trump trying?
We have arguments.
We won't run that. It's okay. Canada not obliged to step in, says a professor. That's true. It is a test. It's a test for all nations. It's sending a message to the rest of the world that the United States under Donald Trump can do whatever it wants. It can block. He's not using tariffs against Cuba. He's just blockading. This is called gunboat diplomacy. This is put my ships there, my aircraft carriers and my destroyers, and if anybody tries to send the oil in, well, we'll just seize the vessel. They're all sanctioned anyways or whatever. So now you have all these other countries that could send supplies, do trade, but Cuba's being prevented from trading with other countries. So the result is, see, I told you that country sucked. They're not self-sufficient. They don't have any kind of sovereignty because they're an island and they can't, they don't have what they need to sustain their people. Yeah, because you're not allowing them to trade. Cuba doesn't have oil. Cuba doesn't really have much in the way of resources when compared to other countries. And so, yeah, they do rely on external trade. And after the, during the Soviet era, it was Soviet Union that really propped up the country. And people, of course, remember the Cuban Missile Crisis. Or if you don't remember it, I'm sure you're aware. Castro. Anyway, I guess some people want to return to the way that it was in the past. That would be pre-1959, but I just know that was before I was born. But I know that back then it was a playground for America. It was a tourist destination. And yes, there was the appearance of a lot of affluence and even opulence, but I think a lot of that was focused on the tourists and the gangsters who owned a lot of what was going on in Cuba, the resorts and so on. Gangsters! Organized crime. Yeah, Frank Sinatra used to go to Cuba. He had ties to gangsters, if you know anything about your pop culture and your history. Yeah, links there for sure. And that reminds me again, we have a great gangster flick tonight. I will ask in the chat, anybody want to guess what tonight's Maverick Midnight Matinee movie is going to be? It's a gangster flick. That'll be your clue. Accepting guesses now in the chat. And if you guess correctly, I will send you a t-shirt of my choice from the Maverick News Collection in any color you want, as long as it's black. The design, I don't know which one, but I'll send you a t-shirt of some kind by mail if you guess correctly in the next few minutes. I'll check in the chat as we progress with the broadcast here. It's a great flick. It's one of my favorites of all time. First time running here on Maverick. What else we got going on here tonight? Oh, this is an important story, actually. Back to Tumbler Ridge, a story that I really wish I didn't have to talk about tonight, but huge story being reported by the Wall Street Journal connected to the Tumbler Ridge school shooting. It's being reported that OpenAI employees wanted to call police and tell them about Jesse Van Rootselaar, or Jesse Strang, which was the name he normally used, because they had flagged, ChatGPT had flagged the shooter as early as last June because there were descriptions of gun violence scenarios that they took note of on Van Rootselaar's account. So I guess there were about a dozen staff members at OpenAI that wanted to go to law enforcement. And for some reason, the company said no. I guess they were weighing the decision against privacy concerns. Of course, difficult to predict what somebody might do, but whatever was being posted was extreme enough that it got the attention of about a dozen people working there, but it was not reported to the authorities. Now, we do know that Van Rootselaar created a Roblox game simulating a mass shooting in a mall and claimed to have 3D printed bullet cartridges. And so these are the kinds of projects that AI tools have made dramatically easier. And with all that going on, that's what raised red flags for some of the people who work at OpenAI, but didn't happen. So questions surrounding all of that. Wall Street Journal reporting on that tonight. They're the ones who broke the story, and Elon Musk responding to that. And of course, this has brought the transgender issue front and center for a lot of people. Let me show you. Here we go. It's right here. There's Elon Musk responding to that. He says, "This is diabolical. OpenAI's ChatGPT convinced a guy to do a murder-suicide! Exclamation point. To be safe, AI must maximally truthful seeking and not pander to delusions." Remember what I said? What was my broadcast about the other night? I said there's something not right out there. People can be targeted through social media, micro-targeted with messaging to trigger people. You can also target people broadly through demographics as groups, but they can also target individuals, and algorithms reinforce bias, reinforce what people are thinking, and maybe put thoughts into people's minds. And what is Elon Musk saying here tonight? He is saying what I was theorizing about to some degree, but also backing up with examples, empirical evidence, data. He says, this is diabolical. OpenAI's ChatGPT convinced a guy to do a murder-suicide. To be safe, AI must maximally truthful seeking and not pander to delusions. And he's referring here specifically to the Stein Eric Solberg committed murder-suicide after spending hours a day talking to the chatbot and sharing his delusions. Now the victim's estate is suing OpenAI. So there's another one. And it shows you that social media can influence what's in people's heads, can maybe trigger people to do bad things. That's what that whole presentation was about was that 2 nights ago now or 3? Probably 3 nights ago. I went through all of that. Maybe a little hard for people to follow, but I was citing specific examples where governments, intelligence services have been using social media for a long time, and psychological warfare techniques to target people, even US politicians who went to Afghanistan, and they were using data skimming, data skimmed off social media accounts to form psychographic profiles of those politicians in order to know what to say to them, how to manipulate them into supporting more expenditures for more personnel, military personnel in Afghanistan at the time. Anyway, I'm just telling you, man, there's a lot more going on out there than meets the eye, and it is not normal times. Something is absolutely not right. What else do we have before we bring Ian in? Yeah, the Nancy Guthrie case still ongoing. What are we on day 20, day 20, day 21? Yeah, 20. Okay, 20 days of pain for the family. She was abducted, 84 years old, mother of U.S. journalist and television host Savannah Guthrie, but missing from her home in Tucson 20 days ago. Ransom demands, Bitcoin demanded, and still ongoing. Deadlines came, deadlines went, and the family's still waiting, trying to figure out what to do. We'll update you on that as we're able to in the days ahead, as long as it goes on. Don't know. Okay, any guesses on the Maverick Midnight Matinee film? Let's see here. Coming back here. Vicky Gould says, I thought Cuba got their oil from Russia. They used to get some from Russia, I guess maybe some, but really Venezuela is where they've been getting it from. And there is a Russian tanker steaming toward Cuba tonight, and maybe it's on a collision course with the United States because it's a country that is blockaded. So they're going to try to run the blockade, I guess, and we'll see if the tanker is seized by U.S. authorities. Let me see here. Okay. Guesses. Anybody guessing the movie? Scarface? Good guess? No. Gangster movie, and we're still on guessing. Party time in Cuba pre-1959. LOL. Yeah. Guthrie thing is set up. Same day Epstein files release, says Rosemary Mack. Well, I don't know. Lots posted. Rick, scroll way up, says Linda. Okay, I'm going to scroll way up. Way up. I'm all the way to the top, scrolling back down. Anybody guess the movie? I don't see it. Bonnie and Clyde. Nope. Public Enemy or Scarface. Nope. Asphalt Jungle. Nope. On the Waterfront. Nope. Guys and Dolls. Nope. Key Largo. Nope. Fog Island. Nope. Gangster's Paradise. Nope. Kiss Tomorrow Goodbye. Nope. Gangs of New York. Old version. Nope. Mean Streets. Nope. Johnny Cool. Nope. Our Scarface again. No. And no, and no, and it's all a no. And I don't see anybody. Nobody's getting it. I am amazed. Huh. Nobody got it. All right. Well, I'll tell you what the movie is. I'll tell you. I'm going to bring Ian in. You want to take a guess at what tonight's Maverick Midnight Matinee movie is? From Montreal.
I don't have any guess, actually. My culture lacked that much, so.
Well, it's one of my favorite movies of all time. And it's really old, but way ahead of its time. And the performance, just epic.
The Invisible Man.
Nope. No. It's a gangster movie. I thought it would be appropriate given that Cuba used to be a playground for Americans and was run largely by organized crime and gangsters in the 1950s. No, the movie is Little Caesar with Edward G. Robinson. And he set the standard, man, for gangster performances. He set the standard. What are you laughing about?
That's a good segue because actually there's some gangster thing going on in my history tonight.
Oh?
And you'll ask why.
Why?
Well, you know your history like me a little bit, I think. And if I tell you Les Filles du Roi, do you remember who are they? Or the daughter of the king, if you remember well.
Okay.
Well, let's just say that Canada long ago wasn't just run by settled people or settlements, but also criminals and whatnot, because they were sent in Canada as a probation, if you will, of the time, as you don't want to be in jail. Well, there's a way out, but you're going to be on your own in another country, and you're going to make yourself something constructive for the.
Okay, so what Ian is getting at here is I asked Ian to come on tonight because we were discussing some stuff that we've been seeing online, and specifically there was an influencer who I picked up a live stream the other day. It was in my feed, sent to me through the algorithm. And this influencer, I don't know if I should mention their name or not. I'm not looking to pick a fight, but at all. But there was, it started to give a bit of a little history lesson in the middle of this live stream. And what they were saying was people who came to Canada did so in the earliest years, the first settlers and those who came subsequently for a long time came to escape the monarchy, the overreach of the British government. That's why they left and came to what today is Canada. All right. And then of course there was a lot of other stuff surrounding that it was attached to that statement. But you see, the thing is, I keep hearing streamers, I keep coming across these people who are trying to teach people all about our history and our legal systems and everything Canadian, and they just get it frickin' wrong. It's just straight up wrong. And on its very face, that statement, which really formed the foundation for everything that came after in this live stream, it's just plain wrong. It's just on its face, it's wrong. Ian, do you know why that's wrong? That's not why people came to Canada or what is today Canada. And you're getting at something that's related to that, but it's very clearly just not true. And it's like on its face, it's like it doesn't even make sense to say that.
No, it doesn't. And
don't say anything. Actually, let me just look in the chat. I'm seeing. I want to see if we get any comments in the chat tonight about that. It's just not a smart thing to say. Okay, go ahead. Say what you're going to say. Nobody said anything in the chat.
Yeah, I was looking actually, and Yeah, well, simply I'll put it this way. It was economic. The reason why we were sent here, it was economic. And I'll tell you one thing. Back then, when they discover the beaver fur, it was like gold for them.
Yes.
In London, if you had beaver fur, that means you're wealthy. You're one of the wealthiest person in the surroundings. So seriously, it was all about status, and that's why we had some settlers. It wasn't the only reason, but it was one of the main reason.
Well, it was like this is why the statement is just clearly ridiculous on its face, but easily, accepted by people because we're subjected to so much U.S. history, right? But it doesn't apply to Canada at all. Why would you leave England or Britain, right? Leave there to escape the monarchy and government overreach, and then go to Canada, what became Canada later, but go to what it was at the time, a British colony. you don't escape Britain by going to a British colony.
No, you were sent on a leash.
It's like, no, people were enticed to go. There were incentives for people to go. There was advertising at the time. Some of it was misleading advertising, where they were suggesting to people that this new world, some of the earliest advertising, was some sort of a paradise, and that it was the land of opportunity and moderate temperatures, and when they got here, they found that it was just the opposite. It was just like a wilderness and trees, and oh my God, like, how am I going to survive the winter?
Half of the time it's cold as hell.
But the earliest settlers were sent here. Well, we had the explorers first, right, who came, and they were exploring, and you had like Cartier and Champlain and all of these men and these peoples, not just from England, but also from France up here in Canada. You have the English and the French primarily in this area. The three big countries that were searching for the New World and new places of conquest and opportunity, and places where they could extract resources and send these resources back to the mothership, their homelands, were Spain, France, and England. And here in this part of the world, Canada, the United States, it was mostly in this area, France and England. You had more Spanish exploration that was going on down, around Mexico, Central America, South America, like that area. So, but up here, it was the French and the English. And
it was a race. Actually, it was a race between the two, between the English and the French. It was a race of who's going to get the biggest part of the country, or who's going to make the most of it. So.
And so it was always about, this is also why even today, Canada is still very largely a resource-based economy, because what we have always done, maybe at this point out of habit more than anything else, is just extract resources, whether it's oil or nickel or other critical minerals or lumber, or back in the day, it was furs, because you didn't really have oil at all. And so people were using natural fibers and furs to clothe themselves, even back in the old world. So those resources were harvested here and then put on ships and sent back to Europe. That's what the whole purpose largely was in the conquest of places like, now Canada, North America. But people didn't come here to escape Britain. They came here for economic opportunities, maybe to escape economic conditions back home, because they didn't feel like they had opportunities because of overpopulation in crowded cities or economic hardships back home. And they were promised, you go to the New World, we'll give you free land.
And a dictator, Cromwell. Remember Cromwell?
Mm-hmm.
So basically, they were also kind of going back from there, because actually Bill of Lee said something about the Puritan, and actually he was a Puritan. Cromwell was a pure Puritan. He was like abolishing certain Christian stuff back in London, and that's probably why some people fled too.
Well, there was some, yeah, I mean, there was some of that. And I know that you were sending me some, I don't know where you were getting the information you were getting. Some of it was kind of exaggerated. Certainly, historians are looking at things like the assertions that it was mostly prostitutes and criminals that came
Actually,
here. There
it
was
was
some,
one third
yeah,
of the people
actually,
that was sent here.
yeah, I don't even think it was that high. There was some of that certainly went on, and there was absolutely. I think it's fair to say it was a breeding program where they were sending young women
Yep.
to the New World because they wanted to populate this place. So of course you need men and you need women to make babies. So they made sure they sent some women. But who would come to the New World? It would be people who you could either force, which would be potentially criminals. So you make them a sweet deal and you say, you get on this boat and head across and all is forgiven and you can have a new life over there, but get the hell out of here. We don't want you. So you can go over there. You can't cause too much trouble over there. Just a lot of trees and beavers. So, right. Good luck to you. Just make sure you send those furs back and we won't have you arrested when you get to the New World. So there was some of that, but largely it was people seeking new opportunities, a new life, an opportunity for a better life.
That's
Always.
true.
That's what it was about.
But the population part is true too, because they were sending priests at your cabin or your house and ask you and your wife, Rick, have you done your marital thing? I mean, have you done some babies lately?
Oh, well,
kind of thing.
I mean, that was a sign of the times, right?
That was a thing back then.
Marriage, no sex out of wedlock. There were no birth control pills back in those days. That's why I was saying the other night that the birth control pill certainly has changed the relationships that men and women have today, because there's a lot more free love out there. And that's why Justin Trudeau and Katy Perry are going to make a love child. They're engaging in a cornucopia of copulation, I think, right now. But I know why these things are being said. People came here to get away from the monarchy. See, because then what followed those statements was we have to decouple from Britain. We have to sever our ties to the monarchy. This is what people are advocating.
We can contradict this, because Cromwell was not a king, and basically when he died, his son tried to take the realm after, but people were not having it in London, and they asked Charles II, the king, to come back from exile and take the throne, and basically, dude, come back, please. We need you. We need you to come back here and please repair the country. We're getting nowhere here. So that's what happened, basically. So they were not even monarchy on its. I mean, to a certain degree, monarchy was kind of baffling back then in London. In the same time that we had settlers around here. So then the monarchy. Argument kind of don't stand, because at this point, for this reason, so there's like a disconnection with the reality those influencers try to make you believe and what we have in reality.
Well, what I was seeing in that live stream the other day was arguments really aimed at arguments that would end up breaking up the country. That's really why I'm here talking about it. And it's just another misdirection, and it's not true. Like, these stories are being told to us, and they're easily swallowed by people, Canadians, who I think our country, our education system has let us down because they don't adequately educate us. They don't teach us enough about our own history. And as a result, we don't have enough pride in it. But the Canadian way has been a different way. We have not been a country of revolution. And so the idea that people came here to get away from Britain is somewhat kind of true eventually in the American story, because you had the American Revolution, which was, as much as anything, really, it was a protest against taxes. They just didn't want to pay the taxes. They didn't want to send their resources back to the old world, and they didn't feel like they were getting a fair deal like Donald Trump. So they said, screw this. And we're no taxation without representation. And it resulted in the American Revolution of 1776. But that was a very bloody conflict. Canada managed to avoid that.
Because the thing is that in 1776, and you got to remember, guys, what happened is that we had France and still England trying to, it was a race to who's going to have the most territorial, right? And at this point, we had the Civil War just a little bit after that. So that's not the point. What I'm saying is that they had to separate themselves, and that's what created the 13 colonies. And the 13 colonies was the first states, basically. It was 13 states back then. And that was separated us from the U.S. and basically drawn the line between the two countries.
Well, see, when the American Revolution happened, 1776, a lot of people that didn't want to be part of the United States fled to Canada. That's the other reason people came to Canada, to get away from the chaos, the violence, the bloodshed, the war in the United States. That's a big part of Canadian history. So to say that, you see, this is a conflation. It is a it's not accurate history. It's completely wrong, actually. Canada is sort of the opposite of the United States. A lot of people who came here to get away from the United States, not to get away from Britain. That's our history. But these people who are trying to break up the country want us to sort of adopt this sort of half Canadian, half US, strange, muddled up, crazy history lesson and adopt the same attitude that they have in the US, which is very anti-monarchy, anti-Britain. And even though, Britain is a big ally of the United States, or kind of was until Trump came along. Maybe will be again. I think still is. But that's the truth. It's the opposite of what was being fed to people in that live stream. I just wanted to mention it. You're going to have to do better than that if you're going to convince me to break up the country, because I know that's not true. People didn't leave Britain to get away from the government overreach of the monarchy. People came to Canada, or what is now today Canada, to get away from all the craziness down in the United States and the saber rattling and the violence. That was a big part of it. And that's where you had the United Empire Loyalists that came up here. They settled in, the Maritimes, New Brunswick area, and a lot in Ontario too, Newfoundland. And
Newfoundland is extremely important, in Hudson Bay too. Actually, Hudson Bay is an extreme point of contention, if you will, because contention as it's important, because what happened is that you had the Hudson Bay Company that was actually erected there from Prince Rupert, and that's how basically Rupert's Land, and that's where everything started economically in Canada. Like basically, it's it's the baby step there of an economic and a great withstanding economic back then.
Yeah, and our history has been one, as I said, of evolution, not revolution. I'm proud of Canadian history for that reason. It hasn't been a story of conquest the way the United States story has been, and that also has shaped our relationships with various, like all the First Nations within Canada today, through the treaties that we need to do a better job of honoring and respecting. And it's those First Nations that we owe the very existence of Canada to, because the alliances that we formed with First Nations peoples back during the formative years of what is now today Canada, you know, they also didn't really want to be swallowed up by the United States back at that time, and a lot of people bled and died, and we worked together to stand for what our country has become and what it represents. And that's why I often say that Canada serves as a country of sober second thought in alliance with the United States. So I think we serve a greater purpose, a better purpose. We're more valuable to the United States as an ally than as a 51st state.
I think so too. Hey, I just want to ask you a little
Yeah.
question quiz real quick.
Yeah.
You are in a region called Saint-Pierre-et-Miquelon, which is in Canada, and you do some crime. What judiciary system you think you're gonna appear into?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure I understand the question.
The
'Cause we have
question
a
is,
Westminster-style parliamentary democracy. I don't know what you're getting at. What?
well, okay, in Saint-Pierre-et-Miquelon, it's still under French system,
Oh.
judiciarially speaking. So if
Mhm.
I would do or commit a crime in Saint-Pierre-et-Miquelon, I would be actually under French laws and French from France, may I say. So
Yeah.
I'm still in Canada. I mean, it's Canada, but it's still like a French
Mhm.
country. So it's kind of
Right.
weird.
Because again, and Mark Carney actually sort of touched on this in what he was saying about 4 days ago when he was talking about the new Defense Industrial Act, or whatever they're calling it.
Mhm.
But he said, you know, Canada is a country that is about respect, and that is why Quebec has been able to retain its culture. You also have some systems and elements of government that are unique to Quebec provincially, because your roots are from France, not
Mhm.
from England. But and as much as there's been a lot of conflict over the years, we haven't tried to turn Canada into a melting pot. We've said, okay, well, you guys can keep your language and your culture, and we'll coexist and work together. And that's the way things have proceeded, and that's the way Canada has always sort of functioned, and it has allowed us to evolve without a civil war. That's why Sir John A. Macdonald, our first prime minister, a conservative, by the way, who I think deserves a lot more credit and needs to be, I think, honored in history. And today, instead of having his statue torn down, he was very wise, in my view, because he recognized the flaws in the American system, the republic that was established in the United States, because he saw that system of government gave too much power, too much unitary power to the president. And it created a conflict, a natural conflict between the federal government and states. And there has been constant friction over time. And that is what led, in his view, and I agree with this view, it's what one of the main factors that led to the Civil War in the US. And when he saw that bloodshed, and it still to this day remains one of the bloodiest conflicts in human history, the American Civil War, McDonald said, we don't want that. We don't want that up here. What we want is peace, order, and good government, and that is why we got the Canadian system, a Westminster-based system on like a British parliamentary democracy. That's where our system comes from, and it pulls a lot of it. It's a more democratic system. It doesn't give anywhere near the unitary executive power to a single person that the US system gives to the president, which you're seeing right now in play with these tariffs, because the Supreme Court rules what you're doing with these tariffs is illegal.
Yep.
It's harmful to the American people because it's a tax on Americans and other reasons as well. But just in the Constitution, it says you can't do that. And he just says, don't care. I'm just going to do it a different way. I'm going to do it with this then. And he just does an end run around the Supreme Court. You can't get away with that stuff in Canada.
No.
And you see it all the time. The conservative influencers who I've honestly been very disappointed in, especially over the past year and a half, who constantly criticize our government, our system of government, who the prime minister called them out for being an authoritarian, a dictator. Trudeau's a dictator. He'll never leave office. But we need a republic like they have in the States. The 51st Staters call for this stuff. It's the opposite is true. Our prime minister has far less power than Donald Trump today, by far.
No, you can't unilaterally just sign a paper.
So anyway, just wanted to highlight that because once again, I'm just watching stuff that I'm sure is washing over people. A lot of people are probably just believing it and buying it. And it's demonstrably false. It's 100% wrong. People did not come to what is today Canada to escape the tyranny and the overreach of the British government. It's a stupid thing to say, frankly, because on its face, it's not true. You don't escape the British government by coming to a colony of the British government, because at the time you're under the same rules and in a much harsher environment. So it just defies logic to even entertain that as being anywhere near honest or truthful. So either the person who is sharing that is very grossly misinformed and doesn't know anything about their history, or they are grossly misinformed. Someone has filled their head full of a bunch of false information, or they're outright lying. I'm not sure which, but it's not true. So don't let them dupe you.
Yeah. And those were research and things I remember since my history class, but I had to refresh my mind tonight before coming in, and easily to find. So, I mean, it's easy to debunk and say, look, there's something wrong here. Because, I mean, I can go back with what I just said. I mean, all what we have described there. And I can even go back with all the decree and act and declaration that we have signed since, well, Canada is Canada, which, by the way, was called Acadia back then. So
Acadia,
I'm sorry,
yeah.
but
yeah. So, and really, Canada took shape over several hundred years. It is a shared history in many ways with the United States, but there was that very definite breaking point in 1775, 1776, when the American Revolution took place, and they broke ties. They severed ties with Britain and went off on their own as an independent republic and a new form of government, and very successful. Now the most powerful nation in the world, in a manner of speaking, but doesn't make them. It doesn't make Canada less. In fact, I would say today, the way things stand, Canada, we're being tested, and we are on the brink of, I think, new greatness in this nation, should we choose to seize the day, take advantage of this opportunity. Canada can be so much more than it is. We have everything going for us if we are smart about it and navigate through these very difficult times. Less so with Cuba. They don't have nearly as much to work with down there, and you're seeing the result of that. But Canada, like if they, if you think about it, if they blocked off all the borders, I think if you really put your mind to it, Canada could survive all on its own. We have grow our own food, to have our own food supply. We have abundant energy. We have all kinds of fresh water, technology. We're a robust society. It would be painful at first, but as we adjust, we could be entirely self-sufficient because we have so much available to us as a country across this land, from coast to coast to coast, as they say, right?
Actually, it's possible. And I mean, look, I would fear a blockade from the US, but that's kind of probably out of the cards. Maybe
we don't
maybe
want
not.
that, but I don't want any of that. I just wish all this craziness would stop. There's no need.
But right now, it does scares me what you said earlier before I come on the program about Russia testing the blockade by sending some oil to Cuba. That will, if US start to play, big strong arms on this one and play muscles, that's going to be disgusting to see, I think. It's not going to spark a third world war or anything like that, but
you know what? It could. You do not know. Those are exactly the kinds of things that can spark a war. It could spark a third world war. Exactly that kind of thing. Somebody gets crazy. They make a wrong decision. Something's shot off at this thing or that thing. The next thing you know, an oil tanker is sent to the bottom of the sea. It becomes an international incident. Who knows? Somebody's looking for an excuse to go to war. Any number of things can result from an incident like that.
Very true.
So as much as we see the world being carved up into spheres of dominance or influence, and they're supposed to stay out of each other's backyards. What did I say last night? There's no honor among thieves. And they're not going to stay out of each other's backyards. These gangsters running the world, they're gonna start to pick on each other, and you're already seeing it, right?
Yep.
So conflict, no matter what. This is why it's a misguided policy, in my view. I think Trump views himself as someone who will be the president of peace, because I honestly think when you look at everything I've looked at, like Dugan and his philosophy and the political ideologies and the Heritage Project and all of these things, and they all kind of mesh together, and this global rise of the right, if you will. I look at that, and I think President Trump sees what he thinks is an opportunity to bring world peace by saying, okay, we'll stay in our sphere of influence here. You'll stay over there. We'll agree to stay out of each other's backyards ultimately. But I say, no, it's inevitable that it leads to more conflict, new conflicts, unintended results. There's going to be wars, and hopefully not a full scale global kinetic third world war. That would be a complete and total disaster. What we have right now is just a bunch of total disasters, smaller ones, but on a global scale, this could easily get out of hand. And it could start with something as, I guess just on the scale of what we're about to see with this friction between this oil tanker arriving or trying to get to Cuba to bring them some energy, right? It depends on how America handles that. So very concerning. And I don't see how, and this is the truth. Like, this is raw truth, if you will. Will Canada respond to these requests, or demands by some people even to come to the assistance of Cuba as they face this growing humanitarian crisis because they've been cut off from the rest of the world through this American blockade. I seriously doubt that will happen because Carney cannot risk pissing off Godzilla. Can't do it because Canada's in such a delicate situation to begin with. And it's hard to justify in the eyes of people coming to the aid of a country that has been viewed as a dictatorship, an authoritarian communist regime for the better part of, or more than 60 years, I guess, right? So I totally get that too. But I've been to Cuba. I didn't, as I've said, I didn't really care for it there. I didn't like all the anti-American rhetoric, but I understand it better than ever right now because of the bombastic blowhard we have in the White House, right? So I do get it. I just, but what are you gonna do, right? Like I just hope and pray that the people of Cuba are okay, and eventually this will play out. I don't think that somebody like Marco Rubio wants to bring permanent harm to the people of Cuba, but man, they're going to suffer for a while. And I sure hope there is no armed conflict down there, but this could escalate into something like that there as well. And I don't know how that would sit with the American people, but tonight, strangely, the response is very muted online. I think that there is some sort of government control over the algorithms and what's going on in the news, the newsrooms across America, where they're just trying to temper any kind of coverage of what's going on down there. It's just, don't talk about it too much. The information is out there, but they don't want a lot of attention focused on Cuba. They want everybody talking about Iran right now. And there's an ongoing developing situation as well. I don't know. I think that there's something really serious going to happen there.
Yeah, to me it looks like a sleight of hands. Look right here, don't look right there.
Yeah, well, in the Epstein files, they're still causing a lot of embarrassment, even within MAGA, even as Trump says, I've been completely exonerated, but it's causing a bit of a crack up in the MAGA sphere among MAGA giants like Steve Bannon still tonight. Here, look at this. Steve Bannon pushed hard for the release of the Epstein files. Then he was in them. Yeah. And so he kind of went silent. And we've learned a lot more about Steve Bannon's relationship with Epstein. Bannon, a longtime Trump loyalist, advisor, strategist, and a lot of people abandoning Bannon, and a lot of people abandoning Lutnick because he seems to have had an embarrassing relationship with Epstein as well. So this stuff still winding its way through the MAGA world and straight back up to Trump in the White House, even though he says, I've been exonerated. I ain't so sure.
No.
Even just yesterday at the Board of Peace, did you hear what he said about women?
Oh, no, but
if I can find the clip, he makes a reference to these guys on the Board of Peace, some of whom I guess have probably paid $1 billion a piece for permanent membership. Crazy stuff. The Pope, by the way, declined to participate as someone as part of the Board of Peace. I guess he didn't want to pay $1 billion. Let me see if I can find this clip. Trump on the Board of Peace. I don't know if I can find the clip or not. I saw it. He's like, these guys are. Yeah, here. I think this is it here. Like, seriously, hello. This guy's got a. I'll tell you, he's got a weak spot for women that could still be something that could bring him down.
Some guy. It's always nice to be young and handsome. Some guy. It's always nice to be young and handsome. Doesn't mean we have to like you. I don't like young, handsome men. Women, I like. Men, no, I don't have any interest. Good. That's right. That's right. Thank you very much. You're doing a great job, too. Some guy.
Oh yeah, the amount of narcissism in there.
Well, it's just it's just an admission that he's just got a weak spot for women. And this is, you combine that with a lot of the things he said, like the grab him by the you know what comments, which is just him saying that, women, like, because he's rich, he knows that, women would always flock around him, especially when he was younger, and that he could do pretty much anything he wanted. And you put that together with all the time, just these what went on with Epstein, and then you listen. Even there, you listen to that. I've seen him at the rallies calling young women up to the stage because he thinks they're hot. Right? Like, it's odd. It's very odd behavior. That's what I found about a lot of extremely rich people, is they're kind of eccentric. They're kind of weird sometimes because they're in their own little world, and they can have what they want. The world is literally their oyster, and that includes sex.
Yeah. There's things they can probably do that I can't, because I'll be ostracized or persecuted because, oh, hey, you did something wrong there. But those guys, I mean, yeah, it's double standard, I will call that.
So I don't know if Trump did anything illegal, but I'm pretty sure he was. Well, in fact, what was his? Who was the woman as part of his administration came out a few weeks ago and defended him when the latest tranche of documents came out and said that he was just being a playboy, the way that playboys were being playboys back in the day of playboys, or whatever. I'm making a bad paraphrase, but
well, I've seen same kind of thing actually, and probably real truth in there. I don't know, but a black woman coming from actually the Republican, and she goes like, "I dare you to tell me that Trump is a racist. He's not a racist because I work with him." Da 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 da. And it's like, well, yeah, what does tell us you've been paid for saying that or not? I don't know. Or he just look at you like, making look good, and in the back of your back, he'll say whatever he wants. So, don't know.
So, yeah, I mean, the other reason I kind of wanted you to come on tonight was because with this talk about why did people first come to what is known as Canada. I just wanted to point out again that you did the other night. If Canada becomes the 51st state, like, just say goodbye to your French language, your French culture being protected. It may survive, it may not. There will be, I think, cultural change if we get swallowed up by the United States. Because through history we have accommodated, we've respected Quebec, and vice versa. So, as much as there's been conflict and friction at times, but we love you guys. Or are you guys up there in Quebec?
Are we going to be the next New Orleans? Because there's a lot of French portion in there. But I mean,
well, that's the thing. You're not a bunch of Cajuns up there, right? So it's a different culture.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
New Orleans 2.0.
and there's just so much richness of heritage and culture all through Quebec. That's why I love, as I told you earlier today, I love Quebec City, because it's like stepping back in time. It's like you go to that, those areas that are popular with tourists in Quebec City, and all the old buildings. You're stepping back into the 1800s, and it's just so beautiful. And even though I struggle with my French very much, you walk around in there and I feel very much at home as an Anglophone Canadian. I always, so I've been there a few times to Quebec City and I love it. But that's all part of, even as an English speaking Canuckistanian, I love the
You know what I
French
should do during the summer? We
Mhm.
should do one night at some point in the program. I come on the show and I come with the camera in the old port of Montreal and make you a mini tour. You know,
That would be
like
great.
this building is from that time and was erected for XYZ reason and whatnot, and give you a small tour of the old port of Montreal. Because when you look at it, it's like old France.
Yeah.
It's very old. So yeah, you're gonna have some fun with that, I think.
Well, I think that would be fantastic. We'll definitely have to do that. We'll plan on it. Well, it's just about time to start Maverick Midnight Matinee tonight. Little Caesar with Edward G. Robinson. I think it's the greatest gangster movie truly ever made. And his
I never see it.
Yeah, it's
never seen it.
Fantastic. So you're welcome to stick around and co-host if you want.
You got your man.
Okay, excellent. Let's take a little break. I'll get it all set up and we'll come back on the other side with tonight's feature presentation from Maverick Midnight Matinee, Little Caesar. On the other side of this.
Brightleaf Innovations is excited to offer our newest investment opportunity. The Turn Easy Bed Storage Solution.
Turns with a touch, spins all the way around. Every little thing you need is easy to be found. No more clutter, no more mess on the floor. Just spin it, reach it, you don't search anymore. Turn Easy Bed, spin your world around. Storage made simple, the best you found. Shelves your way, keep the mess away. Charge it, store it, night or day. Custom shelves for your books or your tech. Cozy space for your treasures to protect. Built-in power when you need to recharge. Smart design that makes your bedroom feel large. Turn Easy Bed, spin your world around. Storage made simple, the best you found. Shelves your way, keep the mess away. Charge it, store it, night or day. Designed and developed by Brightleaf Innovations. Proudly Canadian and patent pending in North America. Turn Easy Bed transforms how you live.
To learn more about this innovative new product idea and exciting investment opportunity, call 519-784-0222 or visit brightleafinnovations.com.
He flew down to the island, first class ride, a handshake, a grin, 2 suits, 1 lie. Cameras blinked, they both look clean, but the guest list redacted, if you know what I mean. release the names to protect the victims. And also Donald Trump. Coincidence? Just dumb luck. Right? Another sealed file. That crocodile smile. We did our best, says the DOJ, while the truth just fades away. Another news spin. No one will win except the rich guys with gold ID cards and closets full of secrets behind steel bars. Just a little glitch. A billionaire's privilege. That's the sound of the case. Closed.
Okay, let's bring Ian back in. You know, I love it, Ian, when you do your French Donald Trump, but you know what we're going to have you do tonight at the end of Maverick Midnight Matinee? We'll have to have you do your best Edward G. Robinson gangster impression in French, as a French, with a French accent. See if you can do this one, because he set the standard, man, for gangster performances. Everything that came after pales in comparison. I got to tell you, even Al Pacino and Scarface. Now, that being said, let's get everything queued up. Just a reminder and an apology to all of those folks who are watching over on YouTube tonight. We have to jump off YouTube. We'll be running over on Rumble with Maverick Midnight Matinee. Maverick Midnight Matinee does not run on YouTube. So follow us over to our Rumble channel if you're watching on YouTube tonight. Please like, share, subscribe, and support our journalism if you are able to at freedomreporters.com. And with that, I will run tonight's Maverick Midnight Matinee intro while I cut the feed. Sorry to YouTube. See you on the other side. Here we go. Okay, we're back. Now I am having a delay here.